Hello, and welcome to Dorks on Sports, a podcast about four dorks talking about sports. My name is Daniel. Joining me, as always, is my spooky black cat Penny here for the Halloween season. If you're checking out the video podcast, you can see my spooky black fat cat. We got Curtis Eastwood over there. How you doing, Curtis?
I'm doing great.
All right. We got Allanah over there. How's it going?
Howdy, hi.
Hey. And we got Millie. Millie, how you doing?
Hey, I am doing all right. Thanks so much for asking.
Yeah, give us the fantasy update.
Fantasy update. Well, you win one, you lose one. That trend is continuing. I thought I was so
as it is with many teams in the NFL right now sitting at 500.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually was like, I am so favored to lose in this one league that I might actually win. And I almost did, but
Nice.
it didn't happen. So yeah, it's another week of one up, one down. Survived my guillotine league. But as a Jamar Chase manager, there's some real bad news came out today. He's gonna miss some time. And this is on a team where I have already lost a number of players to injuries. So I'm concerned for my Folger Shakespeare League team. Malvolio's revenge. They're in trouble.
You should pick up Marquis Goodwin.
Yeah.
I did. And then I just had to drop him because Derek Carr looks like he might not play. So now I need to go grab a quarterback just in case. It's a rough week.
Man, that's rough.
Yep.
We're pulling for you, Millie.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
So the Seahawks had a tough road challenge going into Los Angeles to play the Chargers. They're a pretty tough team. They got that defense. They got that quarterback and Herbert. Seahawks roll into town, and from the very first snap, that team had that game in control, and it was pure dominance in all phases of that ball. The final score was 37-24, but it wasn't even that close because that 24 came with a garbage time touchdown with like 3 minutes left in the game. That was a fun game to watch. First of all, Kenneth Walker III putting the league on notice with just a dominating performance, 168 yards, 2 scores. They couldn't stop the guy. By the way, Kenneth Walker III, of all the yards he has, like 200 of them come after contact, which is just
more than that.
That's bonkers to me.
Yeah. He's got more yards after contact over the 4 weeks that he's played than any other running back has yards.
It's amazing. He's
with
like
the lateral with the lateral quickness of Barry Sanders, legitimately.
Yeah. He's like a mix of Marshawn Lynch and Sean Alexander.
Like
he can
interesting way to
barrel through a guy, but he can also do those cutbacks and turn on the jets. Man, I'm really excited for him. But the real star of that game, I thought, was that Seattle Seahawks defense. And I don't think it's hyperbole to say that defense against the Chargers on Sunday was looking a whole lot like that Legion of Boom defense. They were flying around everywhere. Wherever the ball was, that defense was. They were laying the wood. They were getting hits. They were out. I mean, Los Angeles Chargers came out to play, and it was like their game plan was to get physical and get mean and get nasty. And that Seahawks defense decided we'll be more mean and we'll be more nasty. And they out physicaled that Chargers team. I thought it was a really exciting thing to watch. This defense has been evolving, and they're going to need it, because they have another challenge with the New York Giants, the 6-1 New York Giants coming to town. That New York Giants they're crafty. That offense is crafty. They're well coached, and they've got, one of the best running backs in the league right now in Saquon Barkley, who's having himself a year. Curtis, is this Seahawks defense up for the challenge of stopping Saquon Barkley?
Well, we're gonna find out. I think that I'll put it this way. I'm way more confident about them stopping a ground game, or at least slowing down a ground game, than I was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Coming out of that New Orleans game. But
I mean, they stopped Eckler pretty well.
They had him bottled
But
up.
Eckler's like,
I know he's had
He's
one
fine.
great game this season. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the advantages that I see for Seattle is that it feels like potentially for 3 weeks in a row they're going to deal with an offense that has injury issues on the offensive line.
Mhm.
I think that Daboll is going to stay committed to the run game because he really doesn't have much in the way of receivers right now. So it's going to be a whole lot of Barkley, and it's going to be a whole lot of Daniel Jones, and there'll probably be some play action plays that are going to happen to tight ends and running backs and whatever receiver that can possibly get separation on Tariq Woolen. And I don't think they have a lot out there. So I think Seattle probably knows how New York is going to try and attack their defense. And I'm anticipating that they'll probably continue with the similar sort of aggressive attacking the gaps up front, and probably maybe even more of a shift to the older 4-3 style that they used over the years with like Red Bryant and Brandon Mebane and stuff like that. I wouldn't even be surprised if we see Al Woods put out, kind of in the 5 technique, end roll on occasion, just to make that more of a challenge for Barkley. But I think that the Giants have done a really good job being resilient with this.
They have.
And so I don't think they're going to abandon it. And so what they're probably going to count on is, even if they're not scoring a lot of points in the second into the third quarter, that they're going to hope by the time they get into the fourth quarter, they'll start to break out the explosive plays. And if they can keep the game close, if they can kind of bottle up, Gino and K9 and Tyler Lockett and the tight ends and everything. And if they can keep it within like a 1-score game, they're going to try and sneak this out in the end.
Yeah, that's Pete Carroll.
I think that's
right
going to
there.
be their plan.
That's their plan, and I think the key for the Seahawks, I think their plan is they want to come out swinging, and they want to score as many points as they can in that first quarter, which they've been pretty good at so far this season. I think they want to get up by 2 scores, 3 scores early, because then they can take the strength away from the Giants, right? Then the Giants are going to be forced to go to Daniel Jones and make Daniel Jones really take those shots, which he's not great at. That's how you neutralize, somebody like Saquon Barkley. Allanah, do you think Seattle's up for that challenge? Do you think they're good for getting up early like that?
So I just looked at that. I was interested in the stat and in terms of the amount of running plays versus passing plays that the Giants call. And for 2021, they were number 9 in terms of having 60% pass plays and 40% run plays approximately. And in 2022, they're number 28. So they have like 58% pass plays, 42% running. Sorry, opposite. 58% running plays, 42% passing plays. So I think that that's what is attributable to their success this year. It's completely shifting gears. It's going, we have Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones can scramble. Daniel Jones can run the ball. Saquon Barkley is a massive talent. We're going to use him. And so, like Curtis was saying, we know how they're going to attack us. And my biggest fear in this game is that while the defense has improved dramatically over the last 3 weeks, where I haven't seen as steep as sharp an improvement it has been tackling. They're still blowing tackles pretty regularly. They're better placed in terms of they know where they're supposed to be most of the time in defense, but the minute you get to that linebacker level, there's going to be a missed tackle, one or two here and there. And then when I hear things about how Tariq Woolen is out there on skill alone and learning the playbook still, it has me a little bit worried approaching this run heavy offense that he's gonna be in the right position, but he's not going to be able to pull someone down. And Saquon Barkley is not an easy person to tackle. He's, I think, one of the top 5 running backs in the game right now.
100%.
He's proving that week after week. And Daniel Jones is a big guy too. And so that's where some of my concern comes in. I think that the Seahawks approach of score early, score often is the right approach. Like, let's see if we can neutralize that run game. But if it doesn't work, what's the next thing? And what do we have to worry about? And that's why I'm predicting this to be a really close game and a somewhat low scoring game, even though the over under is in like the high 40s. It's predicted to be one of the highest scoring games of the weekend.
Which is interesting
because they're both running teams first.
Yeah, and the Giants so far this season have had low scoring games. I mean, that's where they want it. They want to bring the teams down to their level, and they want to play a run game. They want to control the clock, and they want to keep it close.
So do I think this is going to be a game that the Seahawks can handle? Absolutely, I do. But because I don't know what that looks like. In terms of end result, I think this is going to be one of the most both exciting and telling games of the year. I think this is a game where if we win, the next 2 games on our schedule are imminently winnable. Because it's Arizona and then Tampa in Germany, and Tampa looks like a forest fire.
Honestly.
But and then right after we come back, I think we get the Raiders. Or some other team that schedule is right there. We get the Raiders
after this.
Yeah. By the way, like our the back end of our schedule is front loaded with home games. Like we've played a majority of our road games. By the time we go into the bye, we'll have played a majority of our road games. This is a game that Seattle would really like Jamal Adams.
You know? For sure. Absolutely. I mean, but Ryan Neal, I do want to say, Ryan Neal's fucking dope. Like,
Ryan Neal is fucking dope.
He has been playing.
Ryan Neal was the best performing defender in the game last week against the Chargers.
Nwosu had 11 QB pressures that vaulted
that's
from
ridiculous.
Like top 20 to number 1, like 11 in one game.
Yeah,
but you're right. Ryan Neal was outstanding.
Neal, in terms of Pro Football Focus's gradings, was like the highest graded Seahawk in the whole entire game.
And it was his Jordan game too. He was vomiting all over the place right before.
He needs to get sick more often.
So Millie, how do you think this game is going to go?
So I've given some thought to this game, and as a lover of the Giants, spending a big chunk of time in New York in my life, I have a lot of affection for the Giants. So there that probably colors things a little bit, in that I really like both of these teams. The thing with the Giants, I mean, if I'm looking at how to beat Seattle, if I'm them, I'm going to go back to that Saints game, and I'm going to watch those blown plays with Taysom Hill, because it is the scramble plays and the run plays from Daniel Jones that are getting them across the finish line in a lot of these games. So that's the tape that I'm going to go study. And that really goes both ways. We know how the Saints use Taysom Hill to beat us, and we are able to, well, not beat us, but we are able to to go back and look at that. It's it's a game that Vegas says don't bet on it. It's a game that is a 3-point spread. It is a game where you've got the Giants are 5-0 when they're the underdog, and they are considered the underdog in this game. The Giants are highly underrated. And one of the reasons I like both these teams is they have that scrappy, we can win this game. Don't count us out. Don't listen to what these talking heads are telling you, because at the end of the day, we get the W. So I think they're really evenly matched, especially in mindset and how they're going to approach the game. And I am definitely, as usual, a little unsure. I think I'm going to give the edge to home field advantage here, because if there is one thing for the Giants, I'm not sure that they are ready for the 12s.
Awesome.
I think that we could absolutely be the difference.
Yeah.
So-
And Dable is going to have him ready to go. He's a really good coach.
He is. I mean, he learned under both Reed and McDonough in Buffalo. Right, that's the coach in Buffalo.
I think he also coached with Saban for a while down. And like, so his pedigree is as good as it gets, I feel like, in terms of where he's been and how he's climbed up.
And he
So I
definitely has a
think
buy-in.
that we can win this game, and I'm going to move into some predictions here.
Let's get into some predictions then. Yeah. What do you got?
Yeah. So I am going to take the Hawks. I think it's a close game. There's a little more separation, but at the end of the day, I'm going Hawks 21, Giants 16.
All right. Allanah.
I got Hawks 23-20, and this is it's going to look ugly for a lot of the game, but Geno's going to get a game-winning drive, and that's going to be the thing that really ices it for most of the media. Most of the media is on Geno's side right now, talking about how he's one of the best. He's having a great season, but I think that if he gets that game-winning drive, that fourth quarter game-winning drive, people will look at it. It'll elevate him into the MVP conversation.
I would love that for Geno.
Really there right now. He's in a different sphere. So I think this is the game where we start to have the legend of Geno, as opposed to like this feel good, awesome story.
I like that. Curtis, what do you got?
God, I see a little bit more points scored in this one. I feel like I think the Seahawks are going to cover the 3-point spread, and I'm going to say they're going to win by 27-24, 27-23. I'm going to say
just a few more points.
I think there's going to. Here's the thing: is I think there's going to be wind and rain in the forecast, and it's not like the Giants haven't played in that type of weather, but I think it's sort of it's different when you're playing it on the road here with that fan base making all that noise and stuff. So I feel like I think Seattle has adjusted their defense enough to where that performance that happened 3 weeks ago against the Saints won't be a repeat. I think I think they're actually going to bottle up Jones a little bit more. I think that they the last couple games they did a lot of nickel fronts against the run. They had 4 defensive linemen at the line of scrimmage, 2 linebackers, and they had 5 DBs. I actually think that they're going to switch more into the 4-3 and have 3 linebackers, 4 defensive linemen, and they're really going to challenge Jones to put the ball in the air. And that's where I kind of feel like the Tariq Woolens and the Ryan Neals and guys like that are going to have opportunities. as the game progresses. And I just think that Geno's the hotter quarterback right now. I mean, he's like analytically, he's right there with Patrick Mahomes and
He is, and Josh Allen.
Josh Allen. And I think
He
through
is.
7 games, like that can no longer be denied.
Agreed.
Like it's been consistent enough to think that that's sustainable. So I think this team will win a game that won't always feel comfortable through 4 quarters, but I think so.
I think turnovers could be a real difference maker here,
especially in that weather. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I do think Danny Dimes may give up a couple here.
I this might be an unpopular opinion. I think Seahawks are running away this one. When I look at these two teams,
that's a very popular opinion.
Yeah,
like I'd love to see that, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
When I look at these two teams, I don't see a lot of blue chippers on the Giants, and I see Seattle loaded with them.
They have 4 first-round picks on the D line,
but they haven't done anything with them. They haven't really.
The interesting thing with that is their defense has averaged over 5 yards. They've given up over 5 yards a carry to running backs. That's odd to give up that many yards with
and they really haven't gotten after the quarterback that much. By the way, Daniel Jones is one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league right now. I think the Giants have benefited a little bit from a weaker schedule. The only great team they beat was the Baltimore Ravens, and that Ravens team had a bad game. Lamar wasn't great in that game. But, when they went up against the Cowboys, they got the butt kicked, and the Cowboys really is the only good team they've played this season so far. I see the Giants as every season you have a team that comes out hot and in the second half just completely tanks, and they're a total paper tiger. And I think the New York Giants is this season's team.
The Arizona Cardinals are calling.
Yeah, well, the Arizona Cardinals are usually that team, but now they're just paper. There's no tiger in the Arizona Cardinals this season. They're just paper. So I think the Seahawks are going to get up early. I think they're going to get. This is what my prediction. I think they're going to get up by 3 scores in the first quarter, and then they're going to ride K9 until the end, and it will never be close. I think the Giants score 2 field goals in the first half, and then they get 10 more points in the second half. This is my prediction: Seahawks 32, Giants 16. Blowout. Yeah. Well, and I think the Seahawks just put the league on notice. I think the Seahawks, I think the Philadelphia Eagles start getting a little nervous. That's what
my God. I just started looking at the Philadelphia Eagle roster after they traded for Robert Quinn, and that is
talk about blue chippers. Yeah.
It is like they are so loaded up there.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
If they don't make it to the Super Bowl, it'll be criminal. Yeah. Almost.
It's a good team. Yeah. All right. Well,
you got all those, Millie?
You got those. How'd we do in the predictions last week?
Well, I mean, we all were right.
Yeah. Who was rightest?
Well, I was trying to kind of, my award for who is right. Because there's, where did you put kind of the points over underwise, and where did you put sort of the spread between the scores? And Daniel, I'm sorry, I'm going with Allanah as last week's winner because she chose 31-24.
All right,
he's got this scoring up into the 30.
Here's the thing: I take those garbage time points, take them away. That game should have been 37-17 or whatever it was.
Well, you had 28-17.
Yeah.
But yeah, since it's my award, I'm sorry, I'm giving it.
All right. No, that's fine. That's fine. Lana can have it. I'll you just wait till next week when the Seahawks blow out the New York Giants.
When the score is 23-20.
I'm writing down some qualifiers for you next week, Dan, like 2 field goals for
That's right. No, I know. Yeah. And when I'm right, you can you can talk to me.
I picked
I
up
have
their
a
kicker this
weird
week.
feeling like this is a game where like there's touchdowns scored, but there's like gonna be like failed point afters.
Well,
why-
here's the
that's
thing. I mean, it's a
where I went
Seahawks
with my
game, so
23-20.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a Seahawks game, so it will inevitably devolve into chaos ball. That's what Seattle is known for.
Well, if this win keeps up, we definitely could see some
Jesus.
missed extra points.
Woof.
Yeah.
You know what I want to talk about? Here's the thing. This Seahawks team is really fun, and it looks like it is developing into something special. And even if we don't really see the benefits of that this season, I think we're definitely going to see the benefits of that next season. And like all great Seattle teams, it always comes down to the relationship between the fans and those players, right? Like we saw that a lot with the Mariners this season. You know, we saw that when Seattle was going to the Super Bowl with the LOB era Seahawks. I think that there's a relationship developing right now between the fans and this Seahawks team. There are a lot of really great players with big personalities that are starting to come out. And I just want to talk about who we think these guys are. Who's your favorite player? Who's going to be the next star? Allanah, what are your thoughts here? Who do you like?
It's interesting because I was thinking about this topic, and I was thinking about how over the course of like July, August, September, I just went in October, I went all in on the Mariners, and I learned so much about all of those players. And one of the things about that Mariners team is it was just a charming bunch of dudes who worked for it, who really have a passion for the game, and they made you love baseball because of how much they loved it. And also they made you proud to be from Seattle because they were representing us so well. Julio signs a 95-year contract. He'll be here forever. Like all of them were just like, and Eugenio, like Gino Suarez, the way he came in and was just like, this drought is my drought, basically.
Yeah.
And fought for it, and he wanted to do it for Seattle because he felt embraced by this community and he felt embraced by the team. And so what I was thinking about was like, who on the Seahawks is Julio? Who on the Seahawks is Eugenio Suarez? Who on the Seahawks is our
big dumper Cal Raleigh?
Big dumper. And I have a couple of those. And,
all right,
I think it's a way to think about how we can attach ourselves to the Seahawks. And this has worked for me. So for me, there's less personality and more kind of like charisma. And this is the combination between Cal Raleigh, the big dumper, and Will Dissly, Uncle Will.
Yeah.
They're both kind of blockheads. Will Dissly's a little bit more erratic in his personality and ADD, and Cal Raleigh's really a straight shooter. But like the mustache on Will Dissly and the balding, like just gives me big dumper vibes. And calling him Uncle Will, that works really, really well.
Uncle Will is just a great nickname.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking about like when it comes to someone like Julio, I'm like, who on this team is just a master at their position and has all that excitement and that joy of playing the game. I don't know where to go here necessarily.
I do, but I want to hear. I think that's Kenneth Walker III.
You think it's the rookie
I do because I think he's a generational talent, and we're going to see that. And the more you hear him talk in the sideline interviews and his pressers and stuff like that, that dude is charismatic and he's funny and he's really fun to watch. He plays the game like Julio. He plays that game like a kid. Like he just loves it. Wouldn't you agree, Millie?
I mean, there was this moment I think that I saw from last week's game, which was like a little sideline, mic moment, and after he scored a touchdown already, he's like, you want a second one? I'll get you a second one.
Yeah, totally.
And then,
Yeah.
there he goes, and he goes and he gets it. He has the joy and the swagger, and he's delivering immediately. Something I really appreciated in Curtis's latest blog, 12thlife.com.
12thlife.com. You should check
Was
it out.
talking about, people who are like, how dare we draft this running back? Blah.
Right.
Yeah, that
And
drove me nuts last spring.
Absolutely, who we hoped he was, and who, I believe that Pete Carroll and Johnson Snyder thought he was. And then he's got a personality to go with it.
Yeah.
There's so much in the draft that you see, especially the NFL draft. Like it's become fun and it's a spectacle, and the clothing choices and the jewelry choices, it's starting to rival the NBA draft. And
Totally.
you get these personalities that people love, like Sauce Gardner, but by the time you get to Ken Walker, you don't get that same kind of attention, but he sure does have that personality, and we didn't really get a chance to see it, and we certainly didn't expect to see this much of him this season. But as the next man up, not only was he ready to go, he is following Geno and being the next Seahawks player that suddenly everybody's talking about and wants to know more about. They're talking about stats in these last 2 games, and he's first in many categories, including like missed tackles or
missed tackles. He's first in missed tackles. Yeah,
he eludes tackles. I mean, like, there's something that you don't hear too much about, especially with the rookie running back. So absolutely, I see that personality, and I can see the parallel to Julio for sure. I could also see it as a Ham Swaggerty kind of situation in that.
I have a Ham Swaggerty
totally.
combination.
Yeah.
So.
All right,
Yeah.
what do you got for Ham Swaggerty, Allanah?
I'm gonna bullet through these real quick.
Go for it.
The obvious one for me, Geno Smith, is Eugenio Suarez, because they're both Geno, but also because they both came into a role new this year and took on the responsibility of that role and did that to represent themselves and to represent Seattle. And they both come off way better than expected. I think that that's a really natural matchup there. I think that the offensive line is Los Bomberos, like just sturdy, consistent, doing a good job. We kind of expected it to take a dip because there was some changes in continuity, but then it just met expectations and has done a really great job. And then for me, Ham Swaggerty, that like every tool in the box player, to me, that's Tyler Lockett. Just the way that, and also playing with that joie de vivre, the way that Swaggerty hit that home run inside the park on the home run, and then how Tyler is like out there playing with joy, doing it every single week. But then also off the field, he's writing poetry. He's talking about his mental health. He's just fully representing that manhood that you want to see out of a player. And I just think that for me, that really makes a lot of sense. And then the last one I had was that Carlos Santana, just the kind of big, beefy veteran in the middle of the lineup. That's Al Woods. Like,
absolutely, 100%.
Big beefy nose tackle who's
just blue collar beefy
things. Like, did anybody expect Al Woods? Did anybody expect it at some point in the season to be like, oh, we're going to really miss Al Woods for this game because he is just having a tremendous season. And so I think for me, the value in this exercise is just like, we want to love the Seahawks. And it's been difficult because we're coming off of kind of this like high of the Mariners and then loud crash. But if we can transfer that energy, this is a team that deserves to have that rooting interest, that deserves to have the inside outside knowledge of the players that are involved, because they're good guys and they're working their asses off and they're succeeding and they're led by this fucking charismatic elvish warlock guy who's like never going to fail, like, and has just all this energy in the world. It's pretty wonderful to have Pete Carroll as a head coach.
It's cool. And it's, speaking of Mariners, like Pete Carroll is trying to capture that chemistry with this team, like intentionally trying to capture it. Which, I think about all the different personalities on that LOB era team, right? And that we were allowed inside access to, and though that team drew new fans, like people who never watched football before started watching Seahawks football because of the personalities of Richard Sherman and Michael Bennett and Marshawn Lynch and all those guys.
The
Doug
fucking
Baldwin.
Hunter had personality.
Yeah.
John Ryan had
people were
personality oozing out of his pores.
People were
Let's
wearing
pour
the
one out
Hunter
to
and
him
Kicker
retiring.
jerseys.
Yeah.
Who's retiring? Who's just like the funniest guy on Twitter, by the way.
Oh, he's great.
For me on this team right now, the person that I connect to most is Geno Smith, because I see Geno Smith as the quintessential Pete Carroll player. It's the guy who was counted out. He's coming. He's got a giant chip on his shoulder. He's been good the whole time and nobody's seen him. And this is kind of Pete Carroll himself, right? Like this is Pete Carroll's career trajectory too. And here he is, and he finally gets his moment, and everybody's like, this guy, he's not going to do anything, just like Pete Carroll. When Pete Carroll was first announced as Seahawks, they were like, why is Paul Allen crazy? That guy, the guy who washed out with the Jets and the Patriots, that guy. Geno Smith got the same thing. And what happens? He comes out swinging, and he's showing the world, like, maybe he failed in his first few years, and he went to work and he got to know himself, and he got to know the game, and he got to know what he was good at, and he finally gets his chance, and he's like this silent assassin, and he's just showing the world who he is. And not only that, but he's taken those, he's not taken the accolades for himself, he's given it to the team. But here's the thing about Geno, and this is something Geno's not going to admit. Geno's not going to admit that he's playing with a chip on his shoulder. Geno's not going to admit that he's on his revenge tour, but Geno's writing back right now. And this is what I love about Geno Smith, and this is what I wanted out of Russell Wilson, and this is what I loved out of Matt Hasselbeck. Geno is playing like a cocky motherfucker. And I love the hell out of that. Geno is playing like Matt Hasselbeck played. Geno is playing like, I want the ball.
I'm going to score.
And you saw that in that Chargers game when the center was called for that bullshit, false start. Like, how can a center false start? And Geno was fired, like he was fired up. And now they're 3rd and 16. And the way he passed that ball had energy in it, like that ball went through the air, and you could hear, like, in the ball spinning, it was like, fuck you, is what the ball said when it was like
that ball hiked to him. He took one step and he gunned it right there. He saw where that was going to go the minute the ball was snapped, and
I don't think I've seen a ball chucked that hard.
That was,
and then there was the moment with
my most favorite play of the season thus far is when that happened.
I just wanted to point out the moment where Pete was like, Geno,
so good,
center,
yeah,
just like
center.
Oh, it's wonderful.
That's why I fucking love Pete Carroll too.
Yeah,
but Geno Smith is my player.
If that had been a cartoon, like when it was caught, it would have been like on fire, and the guy'd be like,
or it just blown through his hands.
Yeah, exactly. Curtis, where are you landing? Who are you connecting to? Who do you like?
Yeah, it's definitely hands down Geno Smith. I mean, it's just I love a great underdog story. I became a huge Seahawk fan back in the early 80s because
I feel like that's Seattle in it just as a city.
That is largely Seattle sports in and of itself. If Yeah, it's Seattle for sure. And there is not a player on that team. There is not a player in this league that I will root for harder than Geno Smith right now. And if I was not a Seahawk fan, if I was a fan somewhere in the Midwest and my team was struggling and there wasn't a lot of excitement, I would be looking at the situation out here in Seattle with Geno Smith, and I would be rooting for the Seattle Seahawks and Geno Smith because of his story and his background.
Totally.
My hope is that I think he's going to
sustain
this throughout the course of the season, but I want to see this guy the next franchise quarterback in Seattle for the next several years. I don't want like him on a 2-year window trying to bring in a rookie to replace him in a couple of years. I want him to be the guy. I want him to play so well that he has made the decision for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
They have to sign him. They have to keep him going. And actually, to tell you the truth, I think this is what Pete Carroll wants. I don't think Pete Carroll wants to bring in a rookie. Pete Carroll wanted to groom along somebody who's young and inexperienced and he thinks has some upside. He would have gone with Drew Lock, but he didn't want that. He wanted to go with the guy that he trusts. I think that, I think a lot of coaches want that aren't even defensive minded coaches. I mean, if you look at Bruce Arians when he was down in, and he's supposed to be an offensive guru. Like when he was down in Arizona, did he draft a quarterback and develop him? No, he traded for Carson Wentz. When he went to Tampa Bay, did he draft a quarterback to groom? No, he signed Tom Brady. I mean,
look at Bill Belichick when Tom Brady left. Was he going after that rookie? No, he went for like Cam Newton and stuff like that. Mac Jones.
Mac Jones is struggling this year. It's like so. I think that the best scenario, as a Seahawk fan, is to see Geno Smith succeed and that he becomes the guy moving forward. But I just think for me, as a fan of Geno Smith, I want to see that happen.
I do too.
I read a great article on Field Goals today that was talking about how Shane Waldron's going to get calls for head coach over the summer and that he should hang up the phone because he could take over from Carroll.
Yeah, I think he could be. I called that a year ago when he was hired. I think he can be the heir apparent of
Carroll. And if we have Geno in that system for 4 years, because it's 2026 when Carroll's done, like that to me says we're going to spend that 4 years building up the defense, building up the other players, that we're going to be making these deep runs in the playoffs. And then Waldron's going to come in, and that's about when you draft a new quarterback, but you still have Geno around. Totally. And then you draft and develop a new quarterback. We're looking at a potential special Joe Montana to Steve Young type of thing. But doing it twice in a row. That to me
that's the thing
like
here
that's
too.
A 15-year dynasty.
Well, I mean, how crazy would it be to go from Matt Hasselbeck to Russell Wilson to Geno Smith to another great quarterback? Yeah,
we did have one like we had 1 or 2 seasons of Tarvar.
We had one season of Tavares Jackson and Charlie Whitehurst.
And in terms of, I would just throw it out there in terms of other players that I'm really enjoying. I actually, for me, I love K9. I think he's going to be a superstar in this town. He's probably destined to be the next guy along with Julio and DK. For my money, though, my own personal Julio off of this 2022 Seahawks squad is Tariq Woolen.
So good.
My guy I was going to talk about.
You were going to talk about him? Okay, I'm not going to say anything else. I'm just going to pass it along to Millie.
Well, just let me kick it off because that's who I was going to name in this Robin of who's the player I'm really gravitating toward. And personality wise, who I'm really fond of right now, as much fun as I am having with K9, and the player I'm really falling for is Tariq Woolen. Obviously it's that we all know he has this talent and he's still learning. But what I like about him is that he's the first person to tell you that, and that he's super humble with everything that's happening to him. You know, he's getting rewards and accolades from the league, but beyond that, he's getting them from his fellow players. And it's not just the players on the defense, it's players on offense that they like watching him and they like playing with him, that he is seeking out working with DK and Tyler. He goes to them like let's go one-on-one, and he's learned so much, and he's a good student by talking to these great receivers, and he's learning the game from that perspective as well. And I just think that's another dimension to a player that's really nice to see, that he has this sort of it seems like he has a little bit of wonder when it comes to the game of like, how else could I approach this? What else can I do to make my game better? And clearly listening. If he wasn't listening to those people, he would not be doing as well as he is, and he is listening. So he is my super fun to watch player. Absolutely, that's the one that I'm sort of falling for in all of this. I will say I was really excited for Penny this year, and he was my early, like, you know, we all know about my pocket locket. Like, let's not mess this up here. He's my number one. But as far as these new players, especially, and where my heart is leaning these days, it's Tariq Woolen. He is just a special person as well as a special player, and those are the things we fall in love with individuals on the team.
Absolutely. Don't you have a new member of the media that you're kind of entranced with, Millie?
I do, but Curtis, was there anything else you wanted to say about Tariq and our shared love?
I think you said it all wonderfully. Yeah, I just he's got sort of a I don't want to say it's like an idiot savant sort of thing to him, but I feel like there is sort of like there's just such a good, sweetened nature to the guy. And I feel like, it's interesting. I was thinking when Allanah was talking about like finding reasons to like the Seahawks, and it's been sort of my observation through Seahawks Twitter, in which I daily sort of look at and I'm around. I feel like in terms of like the Seahawk fans, which there's, you know, hundreds of thousands, if not millions in this area. I feel like the Seahawk fans have embraced this squad in a way that I haven't probably felt in like 5 or 6 years. By what they're doing right now, like the whole Geno story, everybody has, you know, I feel like has kind of put their arms around that. I think everyone's excited about Woolen and Canine, and they're loving this scrappy underdog youthful team that's starting 2 rookies on the offensive line, and the offensive line is one of the better offensive lines in the league.
And Lucas, like the way he can just destroy, like bulldoze a dude. I mean, how many pancakes has that guy had? So good.
I am really looking forward to seeing how we look against the Bucks. I'm a little sad that they are so bad. And we are recording this on a Thursday night, so they just lost again, because I really do want to see this defense against, for lack of a better description, some real assholes. The Bucks is full of them. Like
real whiny babies.
I know we don't get Green Bay this year, do we? Damn it.
Yeah, I can't wait to see, you know, what happens when we're up against, you know, Mike Evans. Like I want to see how that goes, and I want to see how our personalities are going to handle these dicks. So that's going to be a lot of fun in German.
It will. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I had, before we get into dorking, I just had a couple passing thoughts. Number one, I was just thinking like Doug Baldwin would love playing with Geno
Yeah.
Smith.
He would, yeah, because Gino get the ball right on time for him.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just his personality, like I just think about, damn it, like I would have loved to see Doug Baldwin running some routes for Geno Smith. My other thing is I was thinking about this. If you hadn't listened to the media chatter and you hadn't seen an NFL game this season, and the first game you tuned into was that Seahawks Chargers game, you would think the Seahawks were the best team in the league. That's how they were playing, like, that game, you know, like they were just so focused and on it and physical. And that makes me really excited. Like, if they can have that consistency, I don't know. I think they can make a playoff push this season. I don't know. I originally predicted like a 9-8 season, but I think 10, 11 wins isn't out of the question. I think it'd be really fun.
I'm comfortable saying I think that they're a playoff contender now.
Yeah.
Right now.
Especially in the
games.
the rancid NFC. But like, I think they can take the division. And if they don't, they're definitely in the wild card hunt.
Let's save that for next week when we do first half of the season review.
That's right.
And predictions for the
week.
second half of the season.
Yeah.
We're getting a first half review. Shall we get into some Dorking?
Sure.
It's good.
Yeah, let's get into some Dorking. I don't know, Millie, what are you dorking out about?
So what I'm dorking out about right now is actually a movie that I watched last night on the plane. I always like to watch sort of, it's usually when I go for a cartoon or movies that are geared towards a younger crowd. It's one of my favorite things on a plane, because if I fall asleep, I can figure out what's going on when I wake up. and you know, it's okay on a smaller screen, and you know, there's a lot of reasons that's what I do. I downloaded a movie that I did not expect to keep me awake, and it's called Secret Headquarters, and it's on Paramount, and it's delightful, and I can't recommend it highly enough. I don't have children, so I will say that to me, this seems like a great movie to watch with your kids. Sometimes I find out later, like, I'm totally wrong. These stereotypes aren't okay. But to me, it seemed delightful. It's Owen Wilson, who basically being a good guy and a good Samaritan ends up becoming a guardian of the earth, and is but nobody knows who the guardian is. And of course, including his own kid, who just thinks that his separated or divorced, not sure, parents, that his dad just doesn't think he's important enough to spend time with. And it's his birthday weekend, and he's supposed to spend it with his dad. And of course, like, you know, not even the first night in, dad gets called away on another IT conference, and off he goes. And basically the kid sets him up to believe that his mom's coming to pick him up, but that's not what's happening. He's inviting his closest friend over to hang out, who of course brings the girl he has a crush on. And just, you know, a delightful little group of 4 to 5 kids as this thing progresses, and they discover the secret lair of his father. And you know, these vigilantes who are out have been looking for the guardian since he was, you know, first in existence. They start playing with all the toys, and that gives away the location, and chaos ensues. It was just really fun. The acting's great, the kids are great. And I had a really good time watching it. So the effects are good too, by the way. So I definitely recommend it. I think the kids are supposed to be around, they're like in middle school, like 13, 14 years old, just to give you sort of an age range on what's going on there. And it's just fun. It's a good one.
I like it. Allanah, what are you dorking out about?
So I hate Halloween. I think that it's just not my holiday. For the reason is that I grew up in theater with a theater dad, and knowing I was trans, And knowing the expectations of both of those identities and their relationship with Halloween, it made me go, no, thank you. And so when it comes to spooky season, which is a term I hate, by the way, I hate calling October spooky season. It's so stupid and juvenile.
Humbug.
Bah humbug, yeah, about Halloween. But so I don't like scary movies. I'm not a fan of horror flicks. But sometimes I do want to watch something that's a little bit like dark and weird and grim or whatever. And so I picked up last year Ghosts on CBS. I'm normally allergic to CBS sitcoms because they always employ the laugh track. And do so aggressively and poorly in my experience with it. But Ghost is just charming as shit. And like, the acting is really pleasant and they get really silly. And the fact that they have representatives. And so the basic idea of the story is that somebody inherits a mansion and then falls down the stairs and then sees ghosts. And so there's a ghost from the 90s, a ghost from the 80s, a ghost from the 60s, one from the 20s, one from the 1800s, one from the Revolutionary War, an Indian from 1513, I just forgot what, a Lenape person, and then a Viking. And so she could see all of these ghosts and talk to them. Her husband can't. That's the premise of the show. It's based on a British show, but of the same name, that uses different characters, obviously, that are relevant to British society. But they come from a place that is very intentionally well educated about history. They come from, I think it's hilarious history or weird history, something that is a British institution, and it's the same people who made this. But that kind of appreciation of our shared identities carries forward. And also the weirdest thing about it is, for anybody who's familiar with Community season 4, which was kind of like the train wreck of all train wrecks, according to some people, but there's still some good in there. It's show run by the same two guys, and this fit is perfect for them. Like, it's light, it's frothy, it's fun. I really enjoy it. It has meaning at times. I introduced it to Beth like last week, and because we're in the kind of a lull in terms of our watching, it's been a joy to watch and just power through 2 or 3 episodes a night because they're 20 minutes long. And the last thing I want to say is that I have Waluigi because that's going to be my Halloween costume, and I built the whole thing, and I'm really proud of that.
That's awesome.
Even though I hate Halloween, I'm going to a party, a Halloween party, and it'll be the first party I go to since the pandemic started. And so I'm just feeling like excited about that reality. Yeah.
Community is maybe one of my favorite all-time shows. I'm doing a rewatch of it right now. I was kind of in a mental health funk a week and a half ago, and so I turned Community on again because that's my comfort show, and so I've been binging through it again. Season 4 is not as bad as I remember, and the only thing I have against it is that Community is so in the DNA of Dan Harmon that anybody who's not Dan Harmon is just not going to be able to write it like he does. But it's not that bad. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. I am the opposite of Allanah. I love Halloween. I love spooky season. I love scary movies. I love horror movies. And this is a thing I'm dorking out about this week. I went to a double feature of some obscure B movies at Renton Civic Theater. It was presented by Crypticon, which is the horror convention, the annual horror convention. And they were showing the B movie, these 80s B movies, Society, which is completely fucked up, and Reanimator, which is loosely based on Craft's Reanimator. Classic horror. And watching these movies now, I never seen Society. Reanimator is a great movie. I've never seen Society, by the way. If you're into B movie horror, check out Society. It is campy and funny and fucked up. But I had this thought, and I was talking to my buddy as we were driving home from the thing, and I was like, I really miss practical effects in horror because they were not realistic.
Yeah.
But there was something really charming and inventive and fun, and like 90% of it wasn't like to make this realistic horror. It was to see if we can do it, or like, you know, like what's this weird creative way we can present this thing or whatever. And I think that's why that genre of horror just isn't popular anymore, because people aren't doing it with practical effects. There's just, you lose it with if it's shitty CGI, like it just feels cheap and unearned. If it's good practical effects that looks kind of shitty on film, there's something really charming about it. But there was also like those movies, those B movies, those horror B movies from the 80s. They knew exactly what they were doing. Like it you know, it was tongue in cheek. It was, you know, like there was a lot of comedy in it. They knew that the stilted acting was kind of going to add to that je ne sais quoi they were trying to put into it. And maybe it's just that I'm an old man now and I miss the things from my youth, but that's aged well. Those bad B movies from the 80s and 90s, top-notch horror.
I don't mean to yuck your yum, but
Curtis, what are you talking about?
It's less, those practical effects they're less disturbing, I think, than the sort of over the top realistic carnage.
Completely agreed.
Yeah,
that just
like
on
that.
some level is psychologically torturing yourself instead of just giving you the sort of titillation of a decent gory horror movie.
I 100% agree with that.
I can't
100%.
stand gore porn. It's just, to me, it's not entertainment. But
Yeah,
I mean, I like a good fun horror story if it's got a balance of certain things like levity and this and that. Like, you know, American Werewolf in London was
like American Werewolf
funny
in
in places.
London.
It kept me going as a teenager when I was watching it and going like, even though I wanted to like get up and leave the room the entire way through the film. Gee, what am I dorking out about? I'm not dorking out about a lot. I've just been sort of you know what? I'll tell you what. I've been watching the Star Wars Andor show, and
Nice.
It's a departure from a lot of the Star Wars content. There's a lot of nuance involved. There's a lot of gray areas between what are supposedly the heroic rebellion characters and what are the people that are working for the Empire. Allanah said last week that she had heard it described as Star Wars for adults. I can totally see that. And I'm here to say that I fucking like lightsabers and Wookies and Yodas and Luke Skywalkers, and I like cornball and I like camp, and it's got none of that shit in it, and it's boring as fuck right now. I sat through this episode last night and I'm going like, gee, you know, if I wanted to eat sandpaper, I fucking would. But I don't want to eat sandpaper. I want to eat a nice, delicious hot fudge sundae. Give me my fucking Star Wars. You know?
Didn't mean for that comment to paint you into a corner of not being an adult. For the record,
No, that's fine.
Curtis is not an adult.
If this is Star Wars for the people who don't like Star Wars, then I guess that's cool. But the shit that I like about Star Wars is not in this.
the thing that gets me with Star Wars is that it's space opera, and I can't stand space opera.
I don't even know what space opera means. I just like
Space opera
lightsabers
means-
and Wookiees and space wizards.
It's space
I like
wizards.
that stuff. So I like that.
Yeah,
I like
and
the
that's
space
great.
opera stuff.
I that's why I tend towards Star Trek, because it's Shakespeare in space.
Well, I like
Oh,
Star
that's
Trek
such a
too,
good analogy. Star Trek is totally Shakespeare in space.
but Shakespeare in space. We should
Yeah.
create a show called Shakespeare in space.
I'd watch the fuck out of that.
Anyhow, that's my 2 cents. That's all I got.
All right.
Give me my
Hey,
Wookiees.
This has been a fun pod. Next week
Yeah.
we're gonna take it. We're gonna do the half season temperature. We're gonna take a temperature on this team. We're gonna talk about where it's going next, make our predictions. If you haven't checked out Curtis's blog, 12life.com, you should do it. He's got some really great stuff on there. And if you like this pod, share it around, hit that subscribe button. You can check us out on YouTube and see all our pretty faces. You can find the podcast wherever you like to find your podcast. If you don't find it there, let us know, and maybe you will. Once more, my name is Daniel for Curtis, Allanah, Millie, the rest of the 12s saying goodbye and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.